Welcome to the movies. As you guys know, I don't know how to start the podcast, so it'll be the second in a line of perfect John Williams impressions that I am worried he will sue us for the rights to because it's just so spot on. Or the start will be something along the lines of, welcome to Late to the Movies. My name is Ben Holt, and this is a podcast where my friends and I get to fill in our movie blind spots. Each week, we'll pick a movie that either I or a guest hasn't seen before and really should have phone home by now. My guest this week, left to right across your podcast aisle, we got Robbie.
Hey.
And Martha.
Hi.
This is Martha's first episode since the Princess of the Bride episode.
Nope. Father
Princess
of the Bride.
What is the Princess and the Bride?
Princess of the Bride is slash fiction, obviously. Like it's we can't get off point. We got to stay focused today. This is the first one since the Father of the Bride episode, which, fun fact, was the third episode we recorded, but because of it being recorded when it did, it got pushed back to, I think it's the sixth episode.
Yeah.
Counting the Midnight Mass bonus. So, I don't know. With the bonus episodes, I'm not even sure what number we're on at this point, but I think around 43.
Probably right around 43. I just don't count them.
Yeah, no, I know you don't, which makes sense. They're bonuses. So this month we're doing 4 selections from Steven Spielberg's many options for summer blockbusters. The 4 that I feel like stood out the most to me, the 4 that have John Williams scores that I believe I can play on a slide whistle. And this is one of 2 that were, at the time, the highest grossing movie of all time that we're doing this month. Before we get too much into it, though, actually, I have a specific question for Robbie. Have you watched the new season of Umbrella Academy yet?
I have not, actually. I've seen that they've been teasing it, but I gotta pick that up.
Yeah, I'm a little more than halfway through. It's been good.
Nice.
No spoilers since you haven't watched yet.
All right, yeah, no, I'll have to check that out. I haven't watched anything. I've been keeping up with The Boys. I finished Kenobi.
I have to see that.
The Boys is still on track to be the greatest show of all time. I found out today that Obama said it's one of his favorite shows, as well as The Good Place is one of his favorite shows. So yeah, me and
Makes
Obama,
sense.
we got things in common.
We have things in common.
I'll be
Nailed
the next
it.
president now.
Yeah. How about you? Have you seen anything cool recently?
Well, I talked about this to you when we were hanging out, but my husband and I just finished The Offer. So good. It's pretty much the dramatized version of how The Godfather was made. It's on Paramount.
Interesting.
And yeah, so we just finished that, and now we're on to Godfather. We're watching the Godfather trilogy. So we just finished 1, and now we're in the middle of Godfather 2, which we've seen before, but like,
Gotcha.
the show is really good. I recommend it.
Yeah, I know when you went through you watched for the third one the Death of Michael Corleone version, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's options when you get to the third one.
I did the Godfather episode, and then the day I watched the Godfather, it was like at 2:00 on a Saturday, and I just watched all 3 of them in one sitting. It was
Yeah.
really good.
Oh, yeah. I feel like I haven't seen them. I grew up with the Godfathers. I like they were always on, especially like around like Thanksgiving time.
Explains
when
a
they're on.
lot.
Right? No. But I feel like I haven't seen it in a few years now, and now watching The Offer, even though it's dramatized, it gives you like a good sense of like how it was made. I just have a whole different perspective of the trilogy and even more respect for it.
Interesting.
Yeah, cool. I've been watching, like I said, the new Umbrella Academy season. It's one of those things, right? It's like not every TV show you watch has to be the greatest thing ever made. It's not that, but it is enjoyable. I like watching it. I like a lot of the performances, I guess.
Fair.
And yeah, if you haven't seen that, that's on Netflix. It's been a really long time since season 2
Yeah.
because of the pandemic. I think it's been at least, I think season 2 was pre-pandemic.
Yep.
It definitely was.
Or,
So
like, it came out at the beginning of the pandemic,
Yeah.
but it was right in that time.
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was right. So it's been a while. I think that's happening to a lot of shows. On the last episode, I talked about Barry, that I only just binged it, but for people who were watching it at the time, I think between season 2 and season 3 I think season 2 was like 2019, and then season 3 just ended. So it's weird to get momentum up with these shows that are organized like 8 episode to 10 episode seasons, because there's just like not a lot of it.
No.
Yeah.
I just finished a binging of all of 30 Rock. And that's like, there's, 20 plus episode seasons, and so you could just have it on, and it just is so much of it, and you just can't do that with even with like Stranger Things. There's just not a lot of it compared to how shows used to be.
Yeah, it's true. Oh, actually, there's another show I just finished. The First Lady.
Oh, okay.
Which its first season. First season just came out. Who are the actresses? Michelle Pfeiffer.
Oh.
Viola Davis.
Okay.
And what's her name? Gillian Anderson.
Yeah.
It's pretty much about Mrs. Roosevelt, Mrs. Ford, and Mrs. Obama.
Interesting.
And about like pretty much like the first layer, like 3 first ladies that were like not normal first ladies. They kind of like pushed the, they just kind of like pushed things a little bit more of like women's rights and like how first ladies should not just be like prim proper like house ladies essentially. So they did like the 3 comparisons of all the stories, and really, really, really fascinating.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that, but you had me on Michelle Pfeiffer, so we'll see.
She was really good as
She is really good.
and I like Mrs. Ford is not one that like I don't really know anything about President Ford except just that after he's VP to Nixon and all that. So Michelle Pfeiffer was awesome.
Yeah.
So
you guys don't know this yet, but I've told you the theme. It's Steven Spielberg Summer Blockbusters, but we came up with a catchy name, as I'm trying to do now, because Steven Spielberg's Summer Blockbusters isn't going to fit well in an Instagram post. So originally I thought the funniest option was Hot Spielberg Summer.
Okay.
Then we went to Hot Steve Summer.
Yep.
And then through a series of misunderstandings, it became Big Steve Summer.
Love it.
And so we landed on Big Steve Summer. So this is episode 2 of Big Steve Summer. And unclear if he even goes by Steve in his personal life. He certainly doesn't go by Big Steve.
This is what's going to get you the cease and desist. Not the John Williams.
I'm a big fan of Big Steve, so I hope he knows it's all love.
it's all love, baby.
So episode 2 of Big Steve Summer is E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial, which is technically extraterrestrial. Whatever. Which of you guys wants to do a 1-minute plot summary?
Oh God. Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
All right. Are we cool if I mess up here and there? Because I might. Okay. Okay. So E.T. Starts off, a spaceship lands in California. The aliens are gathering up tons of plants to bring back to space. They are about to jet out. Alien is left behind, and scientists are trying to capture it. He runs away. He lands at the home of Elliot, the main character. Elliot and his whole family is an interesting perspective. His parents were just separated. So you're kind of seeing a family in a very kind of like rawish state trying to do that. Elliot and E.T. become buddies. They also become very connected. They feel each other's thoughts. And they feel things together. Elliot's siblings get involved, and they're trying to figure out how to get home. They land at a place. E.T. tries to call home. Elliot and E.T. get really sick. Scientists try to find him. E.T. dies, and then he gets brought back to life, and then he goes home.
Perfect.
Nailed it.
You're over by 2 seconds, but still. That's pretty much everything that happens. Anything you want to add, Robbie, or are we good here?
No.
Okay.
I was like, when they first were collecting the plants and stuff, I was thinking like, why are they here collecting plants? And then I remembered a meme I saw a little bit ago that was like, in the whole galaxy, wood is probably the most rare of all the resources. And it's like, well, as far as we know, I mean, there's planets made out of diamonds. This is all the wood.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah. We'll get into this a little bit more, but yeah, the ride at Universal is about like going there and seeing what kind of cool plants they have. And there's a funky guy named Botanicus who isn't trying to sell children weed despite his name.
Mushrooms?
Yeah, mushrooms. And yeah, a character that I believe is whole cloth just for the ride called Botanicus. That's like the main flower guy who's... Of
course, yes.
I don't remember all the details. You're on a bike flying through a warehouse in Orlando. Who knows? Who can remember? Anyway, this movie, real good. Let's establish up top. Martha is the one on this episode who hadn't seen before.
That's right.
Why?
I think it's because and I said this before we started recording, so this might be a repeat to Ben and Robbie, but I feel like everyone grows up with a very specific Spielberg movies, and one of them in my house was Hook, because my brothers and I loved Peter Pan, so it made sense for us to gravitate towards Hook. And then there were just other Spielberg movies that were in the running. So I think it was just one of those movies where, like, if you don't see it as a kid, then it's kind of like, you just don't see it. I'm just one of those weirdos that doesn't see it.
Yeah, it's a family movie. It doesn't necessarily make sense for you to revisit it as an adult, and then, like, with your own family, probably not yet, I would think.
Right.
And so it gets kind of scary in the latter third of it, I would think.
Well, part of it too is when it was made. So it was made in the 80s.
Yeah.
I was born in 90. Although my brothers were born in the 80s, but I feel like it just kind of missed the, like, it was just maybe the timing
it's early,
of it
it's
for
82,
us.
so it makes sense. This wasn't something I really grew up with either. Mine were probably the last one, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Jurassic Park were probably my big ones, if we're just keeping it to Spielberg growing up.
Jurassic Park was the other one too.
Yeah, was a huge deal for me. But this is something that I don't think I've sat down and actually watched it for at least a decade.
Sure.
Which is weird, because it is a really big deal. If you look at, I mean, like I just mentioned, there's a ride in Universal. I think there's a ride for all 4 movies that we're doing this month. It's going to make it a unique month, but.
I mean, I'll be honest. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was like a great movie. I'm really surprised to hear it broke all those records. I'm thinking, and I had this thought last night. It's the visuals and stuff were probably absolutely mind blowing for the time that it came out, and I just can't get that same. I can't get back into that mindset, but I can definitely see the expertise there. I can see where it would have been very impressive for that time. But I don't know, parts of it I was a little bored. I had to stop myself from scrolling on my phone towards the middle a couple times. Wow, I know.
You're gonna be the Kyle of this episode.
No, Kyle was
You're
ridiculous.
You're gonna give it 1 star and drive down the rating.
No, I'll be fair with the rating. It's just I don't know. It wasn't my favorite. After I rewatched it, I'm like, okay, this is probably why I only watched it once as a kid, because there's just not enough action, I don't think, for me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Interesting.
See, the thing is, I thought that I had a perspective of like, oh, I'm going to be bored with this movie, because I was expecting it to be like, oh, alien lands, kids find, alien gets back home. Like, I thought it was going to be much more basic, but I thought the movie had a lot of nuances that I wasn't expecting at all. I didn't realize how deep of a movie it was going to be for a family film.
That's fair.
Yeah, and Spielberg operating on a lot of levels and painting with certain colors of the palette that he hadn't before. So when it comes out, that's what a lot of reviewers cite, is that it's Spielberg doing some more emotional stuff than he had before. Obviously, this is only 7 years after Jaws, 1 year after Raiders of the Lost Ark, other stuff too, but just for the movies that we're doing this month. And those are, action or adventure movies or kind of thriller-y stuff. And I mean, I think it would be underselling Jaws to not say that it has an emotional core and some intelligence going on, but this is a lot more, I think when people think about Spielberg now, it's kids looking at things in like bewildered astonishment. And this is really the first time he's tapping into that.
Interesting.
Well, and I actually just read too, after I watched it, I was reading a little bit about it, and apparently there's this, I don't know if it's true or not, but apparently this is kind of like, this movie is supposed to represent like his parents' divorce, actually. And that like when his parents are divorced, he kind of like just threw himself into like child imagination to kind of like get through it. And this story, it wasn't particularly E.T. It was supposed to be like another film, I think, that like didn't really get anywhere, but he had this conversation and with someone, I'm doing a bad job explaining, but essentially E.T. kind of formed.
Yeah, I was like as inspired by the imaginary friend he had as like emotional support when his parents are getting divorced. That's why you pick up on when Elliot says, only little kids can see him, to his sister, which isn't true, but that's, imaginary friend logic.
Yep.
So, this movie, I guess we can start sort of big picture wise. When it comes out, it's the highest grossing movie eventually of all time, after re-releases and stuff. I think it's made like almost $800 million on a $10 million budget. So pretty good return on investment. this, I mean, cultural stuff. E.T. Phone Home is, I think, number 15 on AFI's 100 Years, 100 Quotes thing. The Ride at Universal, a video game that they produced so many copies of that turned out to be so bad that it completely crashed Atari as a company.
Fantastic. One of my favorite stories of all time.
Yeah. There's documentaries just about that aspect of it that you can go watch.
So bad.
Yeah, this puts Spielberg in like another stratosphere.
Didn't they like bury all the copies in a hole somewhere, or is that a different game?
I think like in New
Yeah.
Mexico or something, or in the desert outside of California.
Oh my God.
Probably in California desert. Yeah, they had to put them all in a landfill. And the main mechanic of that game is E.T. falling down holes. So, which of course happens all the time in the movie.
I read like a review on it where like you were supposed to like collect a phone from an FBI agent, but nobody ever told you that, and they just chased you around everywhere, and you eventually just got stuck in a hole until you gave up.
Oh my God.
Yeah, not a good game.
Sounds terrible.
So yeah, there's so many sequences in this movie that are just, you know, literally the bike in front of the moon is the Amblin logo, which is Spielberg's production company. So I always assume that this has some more personal resonance for him than some of his other movies, because it's literally the logo of the company he made.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know. It didn't charm you?
A little bit.
Wow.
I don't know. Some of the stuff came off like a little bit cheesy, like when they're like, he's in Mexico with stepmom or something like that. And she was like, he hates Mexico. I was like, I laughed. I honestly laughed.
Really?
Yeah.
I fell for her.
She's just like, he hates Mexico. Who like specifically, just like that country. I hate the entire.
Yeah, I just assume like she was like, we should go to Mexico. And one time, and he was like, I hate Mexico. I'm never going there. And then it's
Right.
about with this other lady. He'll
Especially
go to
in
Mexico.
California, actually, Mexico is like the place to go for vacations. I think a lot of them tend to go either like north or to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense. It just like the I don't know, like the acting for that. It just didn't really. I don't know.
It's okay.
There is a lot going on right now, and I was just like, oh, lady, the problems of the 80s just don't really like compute with me. I don't know.
You know, Reagan.
There was a couple things, like the kid called he's like, shut up, penis breath, and she's like, ah, ha, ha, what a charming thing for my 7-year-old. Don't say that.
I did
It's
think
just-
some of the things like that, or like
I think it was just like she has to pick and choose her battles because it's
Fair.
just her against these three chaos
three
agents.
Yeah.
little monsters.
Yeah.
yeah, because in the very beginning, I had the same thought. I'm like, my God, this mom is just like letting them like live. Like the kid, like Elliot is like at the street, just like waiting for the pizza, like in the middle of the night, like not in the middle of the night, but like at night.
Well, she didn't even know they ordered pizza.
Yeah, true. But like things like that where or like the kids just like grab knives to like kill the coyote to see if
She
it was a
tells them,
coyote.
put the knives back, and they just go, no.
No. Right. So like then when I heard like more of like when Elliot brings up like, you know, dad's in Mexico with Sally, and like you hear of the separation, it's like you said, Ben, it's like, oh, she's just picking and choosing because she's in survival mode right now.
Yes. Yeah. She is just hanging on, like you think emotionally, mentally. And it's, you know, I guess Steve, Big Steve was probably more on his mom's side based on this movie.
That's what it seems like.
But yeah, let's talk about the fun parts and stuff. So the movie itself, I really love how it starts. There's no dialogue for quite a while until you get into that scene where you're like, oh, this is where Stranger Things took all of season 1 from.
The exact note I wrote, I was like, my God, inspiration for Stranger Things.
Yeah, the kids are playing D&D. Elle is basically
The lighting and
E.T. like,
Oh, yep.
yes.
all at the table, like the exact same haircuts, the style, the lamps, everything.
And I like that it sets up. It's the 80s, and these kids are like nerdy and playing D&D, and even they think Elliot's a dork.
Yeah.
And that kind of sets you up with Elliot. Henry Thomas plays Elliot. And the other main person worth mentioning sounds really pejorative to the other people, but I just mean it's Drew Barrymore. Not her screen debut, but you know.
I remember seeing her name, and I was like, "Wait, where's Drew Barrymore?" She was the child.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
She actually lied to Spielberg to get on the movie. I don't know what she lied about, but I know that like he was asking her like very specific questions, and she was just like lying through her teeth the whole time because she was like she was eager to get onto the movie.
Yeah, I think it's in like the audition process. He liked her charisma because she told a story about leading a punk band, and he was like, okay, you have the imagination to do this role.
Yeah.
Because she's 7 when this movie comes out. She's in rehab within 6 years.
Oh, geez.
From this moment, it's just crazy looking how. I mean, she's
in
a baby.
Rehab at 13.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. She gets emancipated and has her own apartment by 15.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy that she seems to be a generally well-adjusted person that everyone in Hollywood seems to like today
And have like a lot of respect for.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
And it's she's 47 now, which it just feels like she's been around forever. It's a 40-year-old movie, and the fact that she's only 47, obviously she's 7 in this, but still kind of the math boggles the mind.
Yeah, I was trying to so like watching it last night, I was talking to Derek about it, saying like, wow, I can't believe that's Drew Barrymore. Like my mind's blown right now. And he's like, well, she's older than you. I'm like, yeah, but like she's still around. Like she's still young. Like I remember
Sure.
Like Never Been Kissed, Ever After, Charlie's Angels. It's like, oh, you were like in your 20s probably when you made those movies.
Yeah. And she was producing the Charlie's Angels movies at the time.
Yeah.
So she's
crazy.
Wow.
You know.
So seeing her as a 7-year-old, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah. And she's Steven Spielberg's goddaughter. And so her parents are famous. I don't think, not that she has a ton of good memories of them, I don't think. But
Oh, are they dead?
I think I'm pretty sure. And I know her dad was like really abusive and stuff. And hence rehab by 13.
In emancipation too. You don't just get that willy-nilly.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for like a judge to grant it when she's 15 years old, they have to be.
It has to be pretty bad.
Pretty unfit, I would think. But yeah, she's really good in this too. You can tell she becomes immediately like one of the most famous child actors of all time, which can't help whatever demons she was fighting, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how the movie starts. No stuff, and it's a thing that Spielberg returns to a lot of just not showing you the thing. In Raiders of the Lost Ark, there's like a whole scene before Harrison Ford steps out of the shadows, and in the last episode we all talked about how like, oh my God, he's so hot. The same thing with Jaws. You don't see the shark for a while, and he's also super hot when you finally see him. Yep. Same thing with E.T.
So the guy with the keys. Oh no, E.T.
Yeah. So yeah, he doesn't show you the puppet for a while, and then it's a pretty good puppet.
It is a good puppet.
A lot of puppet work, a lot of hands around the corner when Elliot's leading him with Reese's Pieces up into the room, and
when he first started like using his hands and walking around and stuff, I had a note that said E.T. answers the question, what would happen if penguins had hands? They remind me very much of penguins, but with fingers instead.
Especially the first, it's a while until he, I guess, extends his neck, for lack of a better term. So he's very boxy.
Yes. Yep.
So yeah, very penguin-y, really.
Very penguin-y.
He waddles.
He does waddle.
Makes sense.
Does he poop Reese's Pieces? Where did those come from? Because there was some inexplicably in the woods that led the guy with the keys towards
Elliot.
them.
You see Elliot on the bike dropping Reese's Pieces all over the woods.
He like goes around and like drops.
Yeah, he tries to Hansel and Gretel him.
Okay. I missed that part. I thought he just left a trail. So I was like, why is there this random pile of them in the middle of the woods?
No, that was Elliot.
That's where Hershey's gets them from. Aliens pooping in the woods.
Perfect.
I don't know why, but actually, so Reese's Pieces was like my favorite candy growing up. So I was like, holy shit.
This is some great product placement.
Yeah, it was. It really was.
Coors, V8, all labels
V8,
facing the camera.
What was the yogurt too? Yoplait?
Yeah, I think it was Yoplait.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, there was some cottage cheese or something.
Yep.
But I didn't get the label on that. I just saw it. But yeah, and like any sane person, E.T. just ignores the cottage cheese, just throws it across the room.
Oh no, it wasn't cottage cheese. I think it was potato salad.
Oh, still same thing.
Still
fair.
Fair. He is a man with taste. Yeah. So
the TIE fighter in his room. Like, I love the Yoda scene too. That was pretty great.
The Yoda scene's great. He has Greedo and Lando Calrissian toys that he's showing them. It's just, Spielberg shouting out his buddy George.
Yeah, I really appreciated that, actually.
Yeah. Makes sense. So the movies, 77 is both Star Wars George Lucas, and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Steven Spielberg's other alien movie. And this is.
And then John Williams just must be buddies with both of them because he does all the music for.
Yeah.
Did you see that he's retiring?
Yeah, I did see that.
No more movie music from John Williams.
It's too bad.
Well, he's what?
90, I think.
90? 80, yeah, like 88, 89, 90.
I think he's around there. Yeah.
I think the article I saw was said at 90 he's retired, but that's,
I mean, he's earned it.
Yep. He says he's still going to make music, just not for movies.
Yeah, he's got like
Can't blame him.
I think he's got like 30 Oscar nominations.
Yeah,
something.
yeah, something insane like that.
He wins for this. I guess we could say now because we're talking about music.
Yeah,
he wins score.
Nice.
Although he's not the biggest grossing music composer anymore.
Really?
It's
Hans Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer.
It's him, Zimmer, and Elfman
Yep.
that do most of the
Did Zimmer
American
do Dune?
movies. Yeah, he did Dune. So he's the reigning current best score.
I mean, yeah, Zimmer. I mean,
I feel like you got to adjust John Williams' earnings for inflation, and then.
Yeah, because his.
Right.
I mean, some of his most iconic works in the 70s.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
It's actually probably a pretty significant inflation bump.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, I made a note actually about his music. What was interesting about E.T. was that as soon as the first scene hit and like you hear John Williams' music, I instantly felt nostalgic.
That's what it does.
Yep.
And it's funny. I was like, wow, I feel nostalgic, even though I've never seen E.T. before. But it's every single movie that we know, just like you hear everything.
Oh, yeah.
And it was all in the first scene. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and this is a good one. It might be his best score, even if it's not necessarily the most famous, which you'd probably say Star Wars or Jaws.
Star Wars for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe Jaws. It's close.
Yeah. Star Wars for the
Well,
whole
and
score,
Harry
Jaws
Potter
for just
too.
the bump.
Oh, did he do Harry Potter?
He did the first one. I don't know if he did the second one, but John Williams is the one that created the themes.
Right.
Yeah. So curious. This movie is sort of like you were saying. It wasn't exactly the shape you were expecting to be, as far as the beats of the story. What was anything that was like really particularly surprising?
The connection between Elliot and E.T. I wasn't expecting that. Where like if E.T. was feeling something or moving, Elliot could feel it, and vice versa. That connection, I was like, huh. This is something I wasn't expecting to happen.
Yeah. He's trying to get right at the heart of like childhood emotional truths and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think succeeding. Maybe it doesn't work for everyone.
Not looking at someone across
I
the room.
just said it wasn't my favorite movie.
This just wasn't your favorite movie. So I'm sitting here like, this is probably like, for me, probably fourth out of the 4 movies we're doing this week. But you asshole. How is this not your favorite movie? Yeah.
No, I think I just was not expecting to have like empathy in this, like to have like an empathetic connection. That didn't surprise me. That really surprised me. And I think the other part that surprised me too is like E.T. dies, spoiler alert, everyone. But the fact that he like came back, so you like, in the beginning, like you see like all the red hearts, like, and you're kind of like, okay, it's just like a weird alien thing, whatever. But then he dies and then his heart goes back up. It's like, oh, weird. So you are alive because you feel connected to your people. I don't know. Like, I feel like you could totally like have like a very cool, deep conversation on that.
Yeah. There's, a deep conversation. How else would you put it? That's totally
a heart to heart, maybe?
A heart to heart, a glowing red heart.
Bum.
Yeah, and you don't get like a really good look at it until I think the last time when he's saying goodbye to Elliot, and you see that they actually like modeled a heart beating and stuff.
Yeah,
it's really creepy.
Yeah, really.
I thought I was thinking about the whole connection thing too, because I thought it was funny at the end. He gets the plant, and I was like, oh, see, it was just a whole thing. Long con. They wanted plants. He couldn't get them. He ran away. He had to get this kid to get attached to him, and then leaving the planet, take this. But then I thought he probably had to take the plant with him, because I think when Elliot was dying, E.T. had to sever that connection, and I think he replaced it with the plant. That's why both him and the plant died. And then the plant comes back when E.T. comes back, and he takes it with him. But I think now he's connected to that plant, and like you couldn't just leave that on Earth. Like you're psychically connected to that plant now. But
Yeah.
so I answered my own shenanigans.
There you
with
go.
with a big
There
circle.
you go. Yeah.
Huh.
Are you like so? Were you expecting so much like anti-government, pro-environment stuff?
No. Also, I wasn't expecting any government story to be part of this. I really, really thought
It's
it
a
was
really,
alien.
it's a really big chunk of the movie.
Yeah, I
once
really
they
thought
take
it was
over
going
the
to be
house.
like alien children, alien home. Like I really thought like that was going to be it, and instead, government came in, and I was like, whoa, whoa. The only question I had was the guy. I don't know his name, but like he like at the end he sees Elliot, and he's the one that has the conversation with Elliot. Like I've been waiting for this, blah, blah, blah. What's his deal exactly?
Did he
I think
meet an
it's-
ET before?
I think he's just trying to get with his mom. It's well established that Elliot has a hot mom. The teenagers all think are all trying to grab her ass in the first scene. E.T. thinks she's hot when on Halloween.
Okay.
This guy obviously trying to get with his mom too.
That's really the whole purpose?
No, I don't think so.
Oh.
son. I just love that you see the shot from like E.T.'s perspective through the clothes. She's like, whoa,
Yeah.
enjoying her in that like cat print suit. I'm like, okay, E.T., geez, stay on focus, bud. You got to get home. Anyway.
Kid with the psychic connection is going to need therapy.
I know, right? It's like, come on, you got to be more careful than that. Yeah, I think it's just to show that I guess I didn't remember that guy, and there's some shades of gray, and the government's not entirely just evil people. There's also some people who are trying to do good, I guess. I don't know.
Got it.
In Raiders of the Lost Ark, Belloc is like the villain, but he's constantly trying to get Marion to not be murdered by the Nazis for his own selfish. He just wants to like keep her alive so he can like take her. I don't know. It's the 30s. You can just like take a woman back then, I guess. But
so do you think he
I
met a
guess he
creature?
was- I don't know. He said he'd been waiting since he was 10. So I figured that meant like he was a little kid hoping that this day would come, and now it finally has. Or maybe it happened to him when he was 10 and he was waiting for something to come
Well,
back.
because the way he
He
worded
said it was like,
it's
I met I thought he said like I met
know,
E.T. or I
like,
know E.T. Yeah.
something
Yeah.
along those lines. And he's like, I've been waiting for him to come back.
Yeah.
I think is what he said.
Yeah.
Since I was 10.
Maybe
So-
when he was 10, he saw the spaceship or something.
Well, I'm almost wondering if maybe they come and collect plants every so often and they need
They
to like
could. Yeah. I'm trying to parse it from like, again, getting at some kind of like childlike wonder aspect of it. Maybe this guy is trying to say like, I was like you. I want these, I wanted this to happen because I want to believe that this kind of thing is, out there and they're on a peaceful mission and it's about, the environment or whatever.
Got it.
I don't know. I was thinking it's some kind of like him trying to appeal to Elliot. Like I'm also a pure of heart person. Yay.
Okay.
But
I mean,
know.
it seemed like he was. I mean, he was at the end. Like,
yeah, he knows what's happening, but doesn't necessarily try and stop them.
yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for clarifying that.
So, yeah, I love that just kind of the whole movie. It's not really that action filled, but then the last sequence, Spielberg can just have like a really well choreographed car chase pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just pulls it out of nowhere because he can. And yeah, I always like that scene. And even though you saw Elliot fly on the bike past the moon earlier, I guess at this point, the previous day or whatever, at most 2 days earlier, the part where all the kids start flying is really good.
Yeah. I mean, you're not sure if he can still make him fly because he's been sick and all of that. So it's still a surprise.
Yeah, when they all fly away and it's all the kids are like, whoa, good stuff.
That was really good. I don't know. I liked
It's
it.
awesome.
have
I know
to-
we're both looking directly at Robbie like that part was good too.
I will
I
say,
hated it. It was
I will-
terrible.
I will say though, this is so dumb. But the one thing that like every single time Michael smiled, I was like, whoa! I don't know if anyone else noticed how crooked his teeth
Oh,
He
were.
had pretty messed up teeth.
He had such messed up teeth, and I was like, wow, you just don't see that on TV anymore.
No.
Like something's, I don't know why. It just really threw me off.
Yeah, I definitely picked up on like, yeah, I don't know. There's nothing I can do with that, but yeah, that
I
guy's
know.
teeth are weird. Man.
It was just funny. It was
You
just
don't-
funny.
You don't see it anymore. But hey, you don't. He was fine. he had a good friend group who would
A very good
ride
friend group.
bikes away from the government with him, even though they could just have not been involved.
Exactly.
They didn't have to implicate themselves.
Just like, hey, what's going on? Can't talk about that. Government's chasing us. Just show up with bikes. Okay.
Yeah, it's the kind of friends you want to being chased by government spooks. Slide into the side of the road with a van and be like, get the bikes and meet me over there. And they're just like,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah. No
questions asked. We'll see you there.
That's what we'll do.
And I love that
Did you guys steal a car? No, we'll talk about it later.
the back of the van opens in the park and ET's there with like the red shining heart. And Elliot's just like, he's a spaceman. He's going back home. Let's go. And they're just like, yep, okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
What else? Okay, no question.
Oh, there was actually one line that like I actually belly laughed at where like Elliot is like trying to like tell like Michael's friends like this is what's going on, and then one of the friends is like, can't he just like beam up? And Elliot's like, this is reality. And like I don't know why, I just thought that was hilarious.
I think that's just like foreseeing that someone's going to be like, why doesn't he just like spaceman away?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, because he can't.
Because
Okay.
he can't. This is normal life, people.
Don't ask dumb questions. Just be cool.
Sorry, they only figured out interplanetary travel. They haven't figured out teleportation yet.
Exactly. I don't know why I thought that was so funny.
So, yeah.
I thought I really like, I know we were talking about like Drew Barrymore's acting, but I really liked the kid who played Elliot.
Henry Thomas. We've talked about a show he's been on before. I said it was a show, so that might be a hint. He's the dad of the main character in Midnight Mass. He was like a fisherman.
Oh, really?
And kind of like really strict.
Okay.
Yep. That's Henry Thomas's most recent thing I know about. He's in the upcoming Mike Flanagan show about the fall of the House of Usher.
Gotcha.
So I guess he's on the Flanagan train now.
I didn't realize Usher had a whole house. No, they're just like a couple hit songs.
Yeah, well, that's all you need to buy a house, I would think, especially in the early to mid thousands.
Yeah.
I can't even get I have like only 3 hit songs now, but it's not enough in this environment economy. All played on the slide whistle, obviously. So I watched this on 4K that I would recommend. A lot of the first half of the movie is in darkness or like semi-darkness, and the 4K does a good job with it. I don't know. That might be useful information for someone.
I did not. I watched it on my iPad.
Do love that one of
Probably
the
fine, too.
one of the kids just tried to go as a terrorist for Halloween, and the mom was like, "You're not
That did
going."
not age well.
I was just like, "Wow, that like to even try it in the '80s was like a no go. Imagine trying it now, like Jesus."
I like that conversation is happening off screen, so they never show you exactly what he would have worn,
Yeah.
which is a saving grace, I
Oh,
guess,
yeah.
of that
Yeah,
bit.
totally.
And then he's
Totally.
just as like a vaudeville thing, kind of.
Well,
I don't know.
the thing that kind of surprised me actually
E.T.'s
about
trying to
that was in the 80s. So that was like clearly before 9/11. And quite frankly, like I didn't,
Oh yeah,
well, it's just that I like the word terrorist became like a trendy word almost after 9/11.
right.
Like I feel like everyone was always talking about it. And before that, maybe because we were just younger, I just don't remember hearing that language as much.
It was definitely a lot less, but I think there was a couple of pretty big incidents where like they had already tried to blow up the World Trade Center a while back, and I don't know if it was in that time frame, but I think they also had hijackings going on in other countries.
Got it.
But
Okay, so it was part of like adult conversation. I say adult because
We
as a
wouldn't.
child we wouldn't really have heard it.
yeah, I'm
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Definitely by then. Yeah. Then that whole sequence is great when they have ET. Very obviously not Drew Barrymore under a sheet. And the mom's
Yeah.
just like, "Oh my god, so
Oh, you
cute!"
look so great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
And they say, yeah, she says, "You look so great," and then all 3 of them say thank you, including ET.
you.
Very funny.
Okay.
yeah. The one thing I and this might be jumping a little bit, but one thing I realized too about like the shape of ET is that I feel like Wall-E looked like that.
Yep.
Like the boxy.
I don't
with the
think that's an accident.
Okay. In like the way he moved his like the way that Wall-E moves his neck around a little bit, like it's obviously a little bit more machinery compared to like a puppet, but and cartoon versus puppet, but yeah, it was funny to watch ET and see like, oh, here's like the inspiration for this movie, here's the inspiration for that
Yeah.
show, and so on and so forth.
I know even Stevens had a riff on ET, where like Beans is in a bike basket and wearing a hoodie.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
There's other more famous examples, but for some reason that always comes to mind first. Yeah, any show that's had like kids riding a bike, you can always just say that's an ET reference.
You could.
The most recent season of Stranger Things, all the kids are riding bikes. That's an ET reference. I mean, every season of Stranger Things are riding bikes, but
For some reason, I can't remember what it's from, but I'm picturing like a big, like a bulldog in a bike basket. Somebody did a parody, and I cannot for the life of me remember what.
Yeah, and I specifically singled out season 1 of Stranger Things, but that even has Elle basically wearing the same wig that ET wears.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And they have like, her wearing clothes that are just dumb looking, kind of like ET. So.
Yep. That's really fun.
And they have to teach her how to speak, and
the bikes, like riding the bikes away when she flips the van over them, very much like them flying away.
Oh yeah.
Said she makes the van fly.
Oh yeah. No, I mean it's all borrowing stuff from things like this. This, the whole Spielberg visual language is just ingrained into so much of pop culture, even through today. So, but yeah, I just love anytime a person looks at something and is like astonished. You're like, oh yeah, it's crazy that something that basic can be like, oh, that's a Spielberg thing, but it is.
Right.
Good for him. And it's more effective when kids do it. Even though when Sam Neill does it, looking at dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, it's effective too. But it's better when kids do it.
Jurassic Park is its own thing.
Sure. Yeah. What else do we want to cover?
Frog scene. Wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, that was cool. So that's when you first start to realize, like, oh, they're feeling the same things because Elliot gets drunk when E.T. gets drunk. And then, that scene where not only is he feeling like internally the same things, but I guess emotionally, because E.T. is watching like a romantic scene from a movie, and Elliot's like acting it out, I guess.
My takeaway from that scene was how horrifying it was that a teacher has I don't know what word I'm looking for, but unrestricted access to a bunch of chloroform. She's like, oh, we just put chloroform in these frog jars. I'm like, okay, buddy, where'd you get all that chloroform from?
Reagan's education department.
Yeah, exactly.
I need a bunch of chloroform and some frogs. Sure you do, buddy. Here you go.
You're ramping up your disciplining. I get it. The Quiet Man.
Quiet Man.
The movie E.T. is watching is called The Quiet Man, directed by John Ford. Came out in 1952.
That's what it was. But what's also funny about the frog scene is I don't remember how your science classes were, but I did not get live frogs. I got a dead frog.
We didn't even do frogs. We got a cow's eyeball.
Well, we got dead cats. But
Whoa!
In anatomy.
Brutal.
Yeah, I didn't do it. I had to leave the room. They smelled way too bad. I couldn't.
I don't think I could have done that. I'll take the frog.
Yeah, you can ask Ray about it. She was in my group, and I was just like, I'm gonna leave. You guys can do the dissection.
Is that even legal? Like, is it just stray cats?
I don't know where they get them. I never considered that.
Dead, right?
They were dead. They were very dead.
But
I like that all the other kids are like, this sucks. We're gonna release our frogs too.
I loves that.
Except for like the one guy. He's like, no, I want to kill this frog.
Yeah.
What was funny about that scene, I found out, is that Harrison Ford was supposed to be in E.T. He had a cameo as like the principal, but he was cut. Principal or teacher, I can't remember, but he was cut because he was just in
Raiders of the Lost Ark the year before this.
Yeah, and Spielberg was afraid that Harrison Ford would like it would be about Harrison Ford at that point. So the cameo got cut.
That would have been fun. Frogs. Why does it always have to be frogs?
Do you even see the teacher's face? It's kind of more like a Charlie Brown situation.
It is, but I can't remember if
this guy's just droning on about dissection.
I just can't remember if I read that if he's the teacher or it was supposed to be like a principal scene or something.
Yeah.
It was one
or
of
like
those.
The principal hears the commotion and busts in. It's like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah. But anyway, it was supposed to be Harrison Ford, but I was just like, wow, that movie actually, that whole scene would have changed if it was Harrison Ford.
Yeah, he at that point changes the temperature of the room.
Yeah, so I think as much as I love Harrison Ford, it was a good call.
It's the right call, no doubt. That scene's really cool. Yeah, I didn't really remember that either. I like that. To mirror the part where he sort of like spins the woman back in the room and then kisses her in the movie.
Yep.
Somebody just happens to fall down in front of Elliot and he climbs on top of him.
Yes.
It was
just very funny. Very funny.
I actually never heard, like, with E.T., like, obviously, like, the bike on the moon is like a scene that, like, everyone knows, even if you've never seen the movie. Like, I feel like the frog scene should be more popular. Like, I don't know. I didn't know there was a frog scene in this movie.
I think it's tough just because it's cutting between the two sections. Because E.T. at home watching the stuff, well, that's happening to Elliot. So it's harder to be that iconic, I guess, when you're cutting between locations. But yeah, the moon scene, the bikes flying at the end too, and E.T. phone
the
home.
Fingers,
the finger.
Elliot.
Yes. Ouch. He points at his heart and says, ouch.
Yeah.
I do love that the intergalactic phone that ET built is a rotary phone. I don't know if anybody noticed how it dialed. I love it. I was just like, it's alien numbers that are coming up, but it's still a rotary phone.
Yep.
Because that would make sense. It's like more mechanical, right? Because of the...
Yeah, I guess.
More like
it's doing
gear.
like the actual GPS coordinates, maybe. I don't know. I got a kick out of it.
Yeah. The tech's pretty cool in this movie because it is technically sci-fi, even though it's mostly just hanging out with kids. And
I didn't realize it was considered a sci-fi. I kind of had it as like a fantasy for some reason.
It's about aliens and takes place in California.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Are there like a lot of sci-fi, like children, like family friendly films?
I mean, so PG-13 isn't until 1984, so pretty much everything before this is PG. So you can say it's family. Star Wars, for instance.
True.
Star Wars is sci-fi.
I kind of forget the Star Wars is like considered like a family movie.
Pretty sure aliens are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, for like directed at family movies.
Yeah, I think Star Wars is like a kid's movie.
Yeah, it's a healthier way to look at it these days for sure.
Yeah, true.
Speaking of which, Kathleen Kennedy is a producer on this, and obviously her name's been sort of dragged through the mud by the least good people on the internet often in the last few years.
I don't know
people like directly blame her for everything that happened to Star Wars because she takes over Lucasfilm. And it's funny watching all these movies from the 80s that she is like listed as. I think in Raiders, just the year before, she's listed as like an associate of Mr. Spielberg. And then in this movie, she's just straight up a producer. And then he forms Amblin with her as one of the co-founders in just a couple of years after this.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. Nice. So she's been involved with a lot of really good stuff over the years, but mad adult nerds online just blame her for
just rip her apart.
Everything that's wrong with Star Wars. Yeah. In their minds, it's not even all the same stuff, obviously, but whatever. Just happened to be a woman involved with Star Wars, and that's just the kiss of death for some people.
I was going to say, is that the theme? But
unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah.
So this movie, it's an incredible success and one of the few things that just stands alone. There's no even knockoff. They get, a Spielberg associate or assistant to do the sequel that goes direct to video. None of that. It's just
there's a sequel.
No, I'm just saying
there was supposed to be a sequel, but Spielberg canceled it.
That's probably a good call. I don't think there was
just saying,
much
there's 4 Jaws movies and there's about to be a 5th Indiana Jones, and
I don't know the way that this one ended. I don't know. I don't know if a sequel would have. I
totally agree. I'm just saying it's kind of crazy how successful this movie was that they weren't like, we will pay you any money to do this.
Probably because probably because artistically you just can't.
With like Jaws and Raiders, you can up the action or change the action, but you can't like for an emotional movie. How are you going to redo an emotional connection? It would just feel cheap.
I agree, but it's studio executives looking at numbers on a spreadsheet and going, we need to do this again.
E.T. had babies and we're going to sell all the merch.
E.T. Jr.
Yeah.
I think that like that feeling of like when you're saying goodbye to something that you're never going to see again. And all of a sudden it's like, all right, you're going to say bye, you're going to say hi again. It just like ruins it.
Oh, it would totally cheapen
it would.
The ending. It would cheapen the whole emotional experience of the movie.
And I think that's what makes the movie so surprisingly good.
Yeah, I agree. All
right. I'm glad because obviously, I was sitting there and I was bawling my eyes out at the end. And Derek's like, why are you crying? And I was like, this is like an emotionally invested movie. He's like, I didn't really I kind of forgot it was. Like, he loves this movie. Apparently he was one that like lived on this one when he was younger. Had the toy, loved the ride at Universal. Go figure.
Yeah, I mean, merch is another big part of this movie too. Is that again, it's not a franchise, but it basically can be considered its own entertainment franchise, just the one movie, because all the merch, and the rides and the T-shirts.
You keep saying all the merch, but like, what is there other than the ET?
Well, there are like posters.
They sold a lot of those, but yeah, posters, the video games.
Oh, fair.
I feel like I've seen T-shirts of like the moon and the bike, kind of that whole thing.
Yeah. All the product placement in the movie probably helps too.
That too.
I don't usually read through what people at the time said on a movie because I like to just talk about what we think. But I do feel like some of this is worth mentioning. Roger Ebert gave it 4 out of 4, said it's not simply a good movie. It's one of those movies that brush away our cautions and win our hearts. He later added it to his great movies list, structuring the essay as a letter to his grandchildren about the first time they watched it. So obviously really connected with Roger Ebert.
He gave it a 4 out of 4?
Yeah, Ebert does out of 4.
Okay.
That's an Ebert thing. RogerEbert.com, which has outlived him by a lot now, they still go on a 4 out of 4 structure, or an out of 4 star structure.
Yeah.
The Guardian wrote that E.T. is a superlative piece of popular cinema, a dream of childhood brilliantly orchestrated to involve not only children, but anyone able to remember being one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. It's a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. That 1% very stubbornly holding out, I guess.
That's me. It's just go look at the views. It's just Robbie.
It's just Robbie.
I get a lot of hate mail. They're like, "Can you please change this?"
It was screened for Ronald and Nancy Reagan, and they were both very moved by it at a screening at the White House.
You like things that Nancy and Ronald Reagan like.
It made Princess Diana cry. It says, you and Princess Di. It was screened at the UN, and they gave Spielberg a UN Peace Medal.
Okay, now you're just making things up.
I know it. Well, that's why I'm like, I was reading this, like, okay, I have to list what I don't like reading Wikipedia on this podcast, but it just keeps building. And it was the first known film to own an A+ in Cinema Score.
Wow.
I like that it says it's the first known film. Like, this says A+. Seems like it was a long time ago. We're not going to check. The people, whoever did that entry on Wikipedia was like, yeah, it's probably the first one. Anyway,
that I know of.
But again, I'm not surprised at all the accolades it's gotten. I don't know why. I feel like the emotional like breadth of it. I was really surprised by it from a family film. I was very surprised.
So on that note, what age do you think is like the perfect age? Probably around Elliot's age, I guess.
9.
Yeah, he's supposed to be like 9 or 10 in this.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think once you hit like 12, they'll be like, this is stupid. You know what I like? Maybe not stupid, but just like.
Yeah, you gotta get.
You don't have time for it at that age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like 9 because like you understand more concepts that like adults do, but you still have that childhood like innocence almost at that age.
Yeah.
Is that right around the age you start telling kids Santa's not real? Or is that earlier?
I want to say it's a little bit younger.
Okay. But right around that time frame though.
Yeah.
Still in that. Still gullible, not gullible enough, but I don't know, young enough to.
What is that, like 3rd grade?
Sure. Yeah.
About?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good. I feel like that. Well, and that's also, I think, an age too. Like, let's say a kid's parents are getting divorced. I feel like that's the age where, like, correct me if I'm wrong, that like it would actually like really stick. Like, it stuck with Elliot, who's around that age.
Oh yeah.
You know, like at his sister's age, like I don't know if she like fully understands what's happening to the family per se. But Elliot seems to be the one that's like kind of shooken the most because Michael's just like taken over as like the eldest one in the house.
Yeah, that's a good point. That you can tell it's affected all of them, but all in different ways.
Yeah.
That's
because Elliot's the one that's being more nostalgic about his dad and the good times. Like he's the one that's bringing Michael into the picture.
Yes. Yeah. he talking about, well, we used to go to ball games and throw
Exactly.
popcorn at each other at
It's
the
dad's
movies.
shirt, and like
Yeah.
you know, Michael's like, oh, it's Old Spice, and like Elliot knew exactly which one. Like,
Mhm.
I feel like it's that age of like, I know what's going on.
Yeah.
That was the product placement we missed, by the way, though.
Oh, the Old Spice.
Oh,
The
you're
Old Spice.
right. You're right.
I'm sure there's a bunch we missed. I just like anytime they went into the fridge, it was like, ooh,
Oh, the Old
labels are facing
Spice,
the camera.
it stuck with me though, because I was like, holy crap, Old Spice has been around since 82.
it's old.
Like, Jesus,
It
it,
is
really is.
literally
It's,
old.
it's a very old
It
Spice.
used to be New Spice back then. On that note, every week we give the movie a rating out of 5, and you can go by halves on any scale of your choosing. Robbie, why don't you start us off?
I'm gonna give it a full hand of ET fingers, which is 3.5 out of 5.
3.5 out of 5. Okay. 3.5 ET fingers out of 5. Cool.
Okay.
I can go next if you want to think. It's a great movie. I'm giving it 5 out of 5 washed ETs just drying out in the shallows of the lake or river, whatever. I like when people use that as a meme to just show how tired they are, where it's just like, I feel like ET in this picture.
ET look real bad is what I had written.
Look real bad. So 5 out of 5 completely washed ETs.
Me too. 5 out of 5.
Well,
Sorry, Robbie.
good but gross.
Yeah, that brings us around. It has never come to an even half number. So,
What's the highest number?
Raiders of the Lost Ark. We did that one last week, and it was 3 5s and 1 4.5.
You had to be there.
I think that's part of it with some of these movies, but obviously in this one, not for Martha, right?
Nope.
Didn't matter.
Just brought me back to childhood. It's funny because when I was talking about it with Derek, and like at first when he was like, why are you crying? It's like, and I was like, dude, did we talk to
you? Princess Diana's crying
Well,
right now.
So he wasn't watching it with me, and then when I was like, because of the A, B, C, D, E, and he was like, yeah, you're right. I guess it is an emotional movie, but when you grow up you don't think of it as an emotional movie.
Right.
But yeah, 5 out of 5. That was for it being in 19. Like, I understand what you're saying. Like, it's dark. The colors are darker. It's a little bit slower. It's not as action filled. Like, that part I get, but from like where it was, I appreciated it.
I enjoyed it.
Good. Oh, I'm glad you at least both liked it. That just about does it for us. You can find us on Instagram at late2themovies_podcast. That's the number 2. late2themovies@gmail.com if you want to send any complaints or, I don't know, any fun facts. No one's ever sent us fun facts. Send us like a fun fact. Talk about how
no one wants to email you.
how Universal managed to create a nostalgic smelling forest at the Universal Orlando ET rides queue. It smells really good.
Interesting.
It's a fake wood smell that you used to be able to like buy or something. I don't know. There's a Podcast The Ride episode about that ride that is worth listening to. So I'll just say that. And you can go to TeePublic and buy t-shirts. One of them has Greg's face on it. It is worth at least $3,000. You can get it for $20. Rate and review us, follow us, do whatever on Spotify, Stitcher, Podbeans, Apple Podcasts, or iTunes if you're on desktop. You can also just Google the show and listen to it through Google. That's called Google Podcast, but literally just browser window, Google the show, press play. It works pretty good.
Is that googletheshow.com?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
That has to exist.
Yes.
That definitely exists. So thank you guys for being on. We had Robbie and Martha.
Phoning home.
No.
Bye.
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 There it is. We'll be here always. That was
Oh,
I was waiting for someone to.
no.
Okay, whatever.